Hello, my name is Julie Ribchinsky. I am Professor Emeritus at Central Connecticut State University. I also teach cello at Wesleyan University and maintain a home studio of cello students in Ivoryton, Connecticut. I'm here today to discuss the requirements and to give you some helpful tips in preparing for the cello audition for the Middle School Regional Festival that is hosted by the Connecticut Music Educators Association. You can gain further information about the audition process and about the timetable by going to their website at CMEA.org. Additionally, please reach out to me if you have further questions, and I'd be more than happy to respond. My email is ribchinskyj@ccsu.edu. So let's get started. The audition is divided into 3 parts. The first section is a set of scales and arpeggios that you need to play with a minimum tempo of a quarter equaling 60 in a set pattern, which I will demonstrate in a moment. The scales are 2 octaves, and there's one octave scale. So I'm going to go through each scale so you can hopefully see what fingerings I'm using. And whatever fingering you choose, as long as it's logical and you practice it consistently so that it is memorized, you should be all set. So no one fingering will work. There might be several different ideas. Okay, so here we go with C major, and I'm going to put the metronome on. Not that you would play it in the audition with a metronome, but you should practice consistently with the metronome so you're really secure. Here is C major. The next required scale is D major. Next is A major, which might be the most difficult because it goes the highest. I'm going to give you 2 different fingerings for this scale so you can see which one might suit you the best. Here is A major. Here's another version. The next scale is F major. That is 1 flat on B and goes up into 4th position. Oh, I left out G major. Let's do G major first. Okay, G major has 1 sharp. Probably should have done that after C major, so it would be in succession of adding sharps. So now F major. And finally, a 1 octave scale in B flat major. So those are the scale requirements, the pattern, and the approximate tempo. I always like to strive for playing with a beautiful sound. In fact, I tell all of my students, practicing scales is not just about playing in tune, although that's a big part of it. It's also about playing with a really beautiful, beautiful sound, nice and rich. And that brings me to the idea of intonation. In order to get your scales really in tune, you might think about practicing with a drone. Find an app on your phone that will play different chromatic pitches and then set it to the name of the scale or the tonic of the scale. And that will help you, think about the intonation as it balances with the tonic. Very, very helpful to learn to play in tune with your scales. Okay, moving on to the prepared piece. Here you have two options. Your first piece is from the Suzuki book 3, and this is by Jean-Baptiste Lully, who is a Baroque composer born in 1632. This is a gavotte, so it's a dance, and it's also in a minor key. So even though it's in a minor key, you want to play with a nice lively bow stroke and a consistent tempo. I practiced this at about 70 to the half note, and then it asks for più mosso, or a slightly faster tempo, at measure 21, so there I bumped it up to about 80. But then remember to come back to the main tempo after that section is over. So I'll play the gavotte for you. Keep in mind, this is from book 3, and the next piece that's your choice is the Breval Sonata from book 4. So this one is worth 20 points, whereas the Breval would be worth 30. But you're wise to choose carefully based on your ability, because you want to play whatever you choose very well. So if you choose above your head, if the Breval's above your head, then just go back and play the gavotte really well. And I've had students that have gotten in with the 20-point piece, have gotten into the regional festival because they've played it very well. So one thing I strive in this piece is to honor the bow strokes. Some of the notes have dots on them, so they're meant to be played shorter, and some do not. So I'm trying to be extra careful with that. And whenever the tune comes back, you'll hear it a number of times. I try to keep that fairly robust, although I think there might be one time when I played a little softer. So here is the Lully gavotte. The Breval was my first sonata. It's a very, very important piece for cellists, and a very popular one. It has chords, it has different types of rhythms, slow notes, fast notes, and a really definite sonata structure. So a very good piece to learn. One thing I wanted to tell you about are the ornaments. That is the trills that you often see in this piece. And sometimes it's not so easy to get a trill in because the notes move rather quickly. So I'm here to tell you that you can use a couple of different versions of that by just perhaps cutting down the number of wiggles on your trills. So to give you an example of that, measure 19, there's a trill on an eighth note, and that would sound like this. Okay, so as I said, that's a hard thing to do, to get that so consistent with the tempo. You might want to just do one turn, so that would be actually called a turn. Okay, so don't hesitate. The main thing with ornaments is that you preserve the integrity of the rhythm itself. So do practice all the sections that have ornaments without them, so that you make sure you're really in time, and then you can add them later as you feel more secure with the tempo. So here is the Brave Valse Sonata. Oh, and I kind of settled in at a tempo that is about 120 to the quarter note. That's a little bit on the ambitious side for some of you, maybe. So do bump the metronome back and slow it down to make sure that you're really super accurate. This is a long piece. Chances might be that you wouldn't play the whole piece, or that you might start midway in. I'm not sure in an audition. Just keep in mind the judges have very little time to hear a lot of you. But do prepare the whole thing, and don't plan to take the first big repeat. Okay, so here's Brave Valse. So that is the first movement of the Brave Sonata. So those are the first two portions of the audition. The final portion is just sight reading. And many students think that that's just not something you can practice. Or some students may think, well, I don't really want to practice that. It gets in the way of me preparing for other things I have to learn. So, but I would tell you that yes, you can practice sight reading, and yes, you can get better at it. And the more you do it, the more you will get better at it. So let's think about what's involved in sight reading. You basically need to go right through the music that's put in front of you without stopping. So you can't practice it. You can't, if you make a mistake, you can't go back over it. You just go right through. So to do that, you need some advanced sort of study. And you only have a minute to do that, not much time at all. You need to understand what accidentals are in the key signature. Well, for example, am I going to sharp my Fs, or is there a B flat? So you look at that. Then you have to have an idea about, first of all, the tempo, how fast or slow it might be. And if you're not sure, I think you can actually ask and just say, how fast would you like me to play this? Then the other thing is, what is the meter? What should you be counting? Are you in 4/4 time? Are you in 3/4 time? And once you just establish the meter, then I would encourage you to look through and just kind of count through a couple of measures, or count through a place that looks to you that might be a little bit harder. And then once you decide to go for it, then you really just go for it. You can't stop, and don't worry about mistakes. Mistakes are going to happen. It's just a matter of seeing how consistent you can maintain a steady beat and stay within the time. So I think you can practice. Where can you find sight reading music? Well, look in your own library. Look at the music you own already. See if there's things that you have not played before. Ask your orchestra teacher for orchestra parts that you've never played before. You might have some duets at home. You might have some other pieces in other Suzuki volumes or other things that you just haven't played. And you don't have to play a lot of the music, just play a line or two every time you practice. And I'm guaranteeing you'll get much better at sight reading. Thank you so much for listening. Please don't hesitate to get in touch with me if you have any questions.